One of the things I love to ask people on podcast conversations and YouTube conversations is, what are some mistakes that you made that you really want others to avoid when they're investing in real estate? And I asked my guest on today's episode on the channel that very question. And he got into a mistake around networking, but really turned into telling a story about something you can do and have a success. And if you don't do it, frankly, it's going to be a mistake every single time. You simply cannot avoid the thing that my guest Lee Yoder talks about in this conversation. Well, I guess you can avoid it at your peril, because you are going to fail in your journey if you do not do what Lee is talking about here. So how to avoid a big mistake of not, well, you'll find out right after the break, digging into the conversation. My guest is Lee Yoder. I am Jeremy Goodrich. This is REI Clarity. And when you are done, you are going to be smarter and a better real estate investor. Okay, so we made our offers. That's the best to pick up our first property. What do you think is a big mistake? Like, if you look at this process laid out as you see it now at the point in your journey and you look backwards and think of a big mistake you made in some previous part, what would be one of those mistakes that you've made or you don't want other people to make?
Yeah, I think probably what people might miss maybe is probably, I guess what I didn't do early enough, I kind of mentioned already, was the networking. I think there's enough people out there. And what I ended up doing was the guy that was leading the apartment focus group, he was really helping me. And I was doing everything, but he was like, hey, use this document. And again, I ran my underwriting by him, and he's like, yeah, that looks good. And I end up just saying, hey, can I give you a portion of this deal? Like, I'm doing it all, but like, I want to keep kind of bending your ear. And so can I give you a portion of this? And he was like, yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
And I don't know that. Right. Because he's very giving of his time, and I don't know how many people actually do that. And so I'm like, I want you to be invested in this, and I want to repay you for what you've done. Like, if this, and it was really cool. Like, that one went full circle. We were already able to sell that one actually because of market. And I paid him, $20,000. So he's going to get a little bit more, but like, and probably his per hour is like really good on that. But that was my first apartment building, and he really helped me to get in that. So that's one thing, I guess I kind of turned that around, and that's one thing I did well that I think other people should do. Is the networking, people, the price. And like, when people say partner, I think they think like, business partner. There's so many different ways to partner. I think, because Jeremy, I just think the hardest part is to get started. Like, the hardest thing, if you want to get into apartment building, the hardest deal by far is your first one. It's so hard to get over that hurdle. So I just think, like, whatever you have to do to get over that hurdle. And for me, like, obviously, if I'd have given up 50% of this deal to this guy just to help me, it would have been worth it. It would not have mattered, right? Yeah. I gave him 10%, and he was thrilled with that. I was thrilled with that, but it wouldn't have mattered just to get in. So I think, just whatever you have to do. If you there'll be people that say, like, find the deal and basically give it to somebody else. And, but it can be hard to do that. I think I would have networked even a little bit more. One other thing that I would just bring up, kind of more like technical type thing, is that I didn't raise quite enough money. I was in a position, I was totally fine. I put in some of my own, and it all worked out fine, but I didn't foresee having as much of a cost associated with residents that stayed put. So we knew some people were going to move out when we took over. We knew we were going to have high vacancy. That was pretty much in line. I just didn't think that people would live in an apartment unit without running water in their kitchen, in their bathroom sink. And so that kind of cost didn't, you know what I mean? I didn't think we might spend thousands of dollars on the units where people say, because I'm not okay with that. I'm not okay with people not having running water in their bathroom sink. So we're going to spend thousands of dollars on existing residents if we have to. And so our costs ended up being a lot higher. So people say this, and I would just second, like, raise more money than you think you're going to have to, especially on your first one, because especially if you're raising all your money from investors and you would have to go back to them. I just think that's something you don't want to have to do, is go back to investors. Again, for your first deal, especially, who cares if you get a lower return because you have to give up more to the investors because you raise more money than you actually needed. that's fine, man. Your first one is just all about that experience. It's about breaking the seal to get into it. So I just think if people are holding out for a better deal, or they want it all themselves, or they don't, man, get over all that. Just get in with your first deal.
Hey, Jeremy here. Thanks so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it created some clarity for you and zoomed you in on what action steps you actually need to take to succeed in real estate. If you haven't done so already, please head over to reiclarity.com and download our 9 action step framework. I believe that every real estate investor needs to take these 9 steps to succeed at the financial freedom they want to create for themselves. So if you haven't downloaded that already, please head over and get that at reiclarity.com. All right, until the next time, have a wonderful day.